Well, hello and welcome back. And we're now on module 6. And oh, this is where it really is getting exciting. I'm excited for you. And I know it's the bit that all my clients look forward to when we reach this part of the training, because it's when we start to learn about the universal laws, the metaphysical principles, that when we know how to use them in our favor and live in alignment with them, our life changes dramatically. And why these universal principles are not widely taught, I have absolutely no idea. Because this information is not new information, it's ancient information that's been lost throughout time and written about in history. But yet in my studies, many of my mentors have told me that all the great world leaders have disagreed on pretty much everything, but they've all agreed on one thing, and that is that we create or we co-create, I should say, we co-create our own reality. And they have all been aware, consciously or unconsciously, but I think more consciously, of the universal and metaphysical principles. And so that's what I want to share with you in this module. So this information may be very new to you. You may never have even heard of them before. I'm guessing that you probably have, or you have an inkling, but just by the fact that you were attracted to this course with me. But I'm sure you will have heard of what's the most popular one these days, which is called the law of attraction, which is really the law of vibration. That's its proper name, and that's the real law. But as we go through the module, we'll talk more about that. But I just wanted to say how excited I am to be going through this process with you and getting to this stage, because this is really where you will start to learn things that can dramatically change your life if you put this knowledge and these practices into place. So I will attempt to share my screen and bring up the PowerPoint presentation, and we will start to go through the universal principles. So where are we? There we are. There's the PowerPoint. Okay, so let's see now. How do we there we go. I've managed it. So I'm actually quite proud of myself. I'm getting quite good with this technology. So it says here, universal laws, metaphysical principles, pretty much the same thing. I am a metaphysician, so I very often use the word metaphysical or metaphysics. So the powers of creation are 7, the Kabbalion, and that's what the Kabbalion tells us. And the laws I'm going to be discussing here today are the 7 Hermetic laws. And there are many, many, many subsidiary laws, as well as these 7 main laws. But obviously we don't have time to go into all of them today. And as I say, there are lots and lots of them. But what I'm going to go through with you, I'm sure you'll find really interesting and useful. And then you can always email me and ask me for further information on them. And one thing I am going to offer to everybody that takes this course is I'm going to offer you a free coaching session, a free one-on-one session with me via Skype or Zoom or something like that. And anyway, we'll talk more about that in the next module, but I just wanted to tell you that, and I'll explain how you get that in the final module. So to get back to this module, module 6, and this module is all about creation. and the power of creation, and understanding the laws of the universe and the mysteries of life. And now, as I said, we're getting to the part that most of my clients absolutely love. Learning about the laws that govern our universe and the power that we all have within us to create our lives. Earl Nightingale, who was the father of motivation in 1950s America, described these laws as the strangest secret. But in fact, they're not a secret at all and never have been. And as I said before, these laws are not new information. On the contrary, they've been around forever. The ancients and the yogis and the indigenous tribes, you know, in places like Peru and Brazil, and the Native Americans and people in the East, they've all known about these laws. These laws are real, they exist, and they're working all the time, whether you're aware of them or not. And there are no exceptions made for ignorance of these laws. And what I can tell you is that if you've decided to study and align yourself with them, your life will become much easier. Things will start to go your way. The change may be gradual, just small things at first, but if you continue, your life will radically improve. It has to. And I mentioned earlier that you create or you co-create your own reality. And that might be a little bit hard to take for some of you if you're not used to this kind of work. But that statement is beyond a shadow of a doubt the truth. We do create or co-create with the universe our reality. And we do that by the thoughts we think, the pictures we see in our mind on a daily basis, and the feelings. Notice I emphasize the word feelings, the feelings that we have all the time. And there have been many people throughout history aware of this fact. And as I said, I've no idea why it's not more widely known. I believe it should be taught in schools, and I would love to see that happen. But I think perhaps the governing bodies don't want us to have this knowledge and power over our lives that these principles give us. However, I have noticed, and I'm happy to say, that these laws are now being discussed more and more than they were when I first started learning about them well over 20 years ago, which was, the information was very, very difficult to find then about them. And I've certainly seen a shift in awareness more recently, much more than when I first started, as I say. But this information is nowhere near as widespread as I'd like it to be. And quite simply, the reason for that is it changes lives, and it will change yours if you learn about them and you use them. And these laws go by many different names and are much more accepted in other cultures than they are here in the Western world. As I mentioned, Eastern philosophy and the indigenous traditions all over the world are very familiar with these laws, and they understand their power. But lots of people in Western society have never heard of them. We all have natural, magical abilities within us that can affect our lives in a much more positive way if we only knew about them and how to use them to our advantage. And it's said that there are 3 planes of existence the mental, the physical, and the spiritual realms. And there are 7 principal laws that govern our universe, along with many subsidiary laws. But for now, during this module, we're only going to discuss the main 7 because the others are beyond the scope of this course. And these laws govern everything, absolutely everything in our universe, including you and me. You can find these laws in ancient texts dating back thousands and thousands of years. Some of the main 7 laws are immutable, and that means they're absolute and can never be changed. And they are the law of mentalism. The first of the laws is the law of mentalism, meaning that our universe is mental in nature. Just bear with me while I'm checking my notes here. The all is mind, the all being the material universe in which we exist. Everything we see and experience in the physical realm originates in the mental realm of thought. Thought is everything. Everything is first created in thought. It's first created in our mind before it appears on the physical plane. Our perception creates our reality. The way we see our world is the way we experience it. And quantum physics states that the act of observing alters the reality being observed. Something called the Heisenberg principle, if you wanted to look that up. Absolutely nothing is created without it being created in the mind first. So everything that is was once a thought. The chair you're sitting on, the car that you drive, that was once imagined by someone before it actually came into being. And the next law is the law of correspondence. The second law, the law of correspondence, which is described by Hermes Trismegistus. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that right. Trismegistus, with the phrase as above, so below. And you may have heard of that, as above, so below, or as within, so without. And that means that everything is in agreement between the mental, physical, and spiritual realms. They're all the same, and what works in one realm works in the others. The next one is one that I'm sure you will have heard of, which is the law of vibration, better known as the law of attraction. And this law tells us that nothing rests, that everything moves, everything vibrates. We really do live in an ocean of motion. And Einstein told us that everything in the universe is energy and that everything vibrates at different speeds, which is why we and other objects appear as solid matter. In reality, we're not matter, we are a molecular structure vibrating at a high speed. So this desk that my laptop's on right now isn't matter, it looks like it, but if we put it under a microscope, we'd see lots of molecules whizzing around and vibrating at a certain speed. And just the same, if you put your arm under a microscope, you'd see lots of atoms swirling around too. And we're made up of protons, electrons, and neutrons. We're pure energy. And our thoughts also carry a vibration. And with every thought you think, you're attracting to you thoughts on a similar vibrational frequency. Everything has a vibrational frequency or a vibrational signature. Everything. You do, I do, this headset does, this computer does, everything. And you have an electromagnetic field around your body. And your thoughts are electrical impulses that travel through the neurons of your mind. And from there, they're sent out into the electromagnetic field around you. So therefore, if your thoughts are of doom and gloom, sickness and lack, then that is what you'll attract into your life. The law of attraction tells us that like attracts like. And this law is where that expression originates. The law of vibration is all powerful. You cannot attract something into your life if you're not a vibrational match to it. It's impossible. So start to focus on the things you want rather than the things that you don't want. And this is so important. But most people do just the opposite. And they wonder why their life is so difficult. They just don't have a clear understanding of this law. And sometimes people know what they don't want, but they don't always know what they do want. So a really good exercise to do to get clear on that is what I call the T tool. And all that is I'm going to put some information about it in the resources section for you. But the T tool, all you do basically is you get a sheet of paper and you draw a T at the top of it. And one side you put do want and one side you put don't want. And so you write down everything that you don't want. And then in the do want section, you just write the opposite of that. And that will give you the things that you do want. So if you don't want to be broke, the opposite of that is to have an abundance of money. Or if you don't want to be sick, the opposite of that is perfect health. And so write down all the things that you don't want, and then on the opposite side, write down what you do want, and then start to put your focus and your energy onto those things. And then those are the things that you will start to attract. Okay, so let's move on to the next law, which is the law of polarity. And the law of polarity means that everything has a polar opposite. All are the same in nature, but to varying degrees. So for example, one end of the scale is hot, the opposite end is cold. One end of the scale there's light, the other end of the scale there's dark. One end of the spectrum we have love, the other opposite end of the spectrum we have hate. Everything is dual on the physical plane of existence, and everything has an opposite, a polar opposite. That is what the law of polarity means. But the good news is it also means that if you want something, it's already here. Because if it exists because you want it, and you couldn't want it if it didn't exist, everything that you want is already here. You just might be experiencing the polar opposite of that. And this is where we get into the law of manifestation, which I haven't got time to go into that in more detail now, but I do have a radio show on the Going Solo network, and I'll also put a link to that in the resources section, and you can listen into that because I have a show called Manifest Your Ideal Life. And on that show is with one of my colleagues, and we talk about how you go about manifesting your ideal life. So that's a really good really good resource for you to tune into if you'd like to do that. Okay, where were we? So we're talking about the law of polarity. So it's just, if you imagine it like a thermometer scale with heat at the top and cold at the bottom, and abundance and prosperity at the top and scarcity and lack at the bottom. And so success and failure are the same, polar opposites of each other. Sickness and health, as I said. So if you are at the opposite end to where you want to be, do the T-tool exercise and start to visualize the opposite of what you want and start moving yourself up the scale. Okay, next one, the law of rhythm. Everything in the universe has rhythm. It has a natural cycle. Up and down, in and out, like the tides in the ocean, the waxing and the waning of the moon, the circadian rhythms, which are the physical, mental, and behavioural changes that follow a 24-hour cycle. And so when we are out of sorts, it could well mean that our circadian rhythm is all messed up. You know, so if you work nights or something like that, you're awake when most people are sleeping, and you're asleep when most people are awake during the day. So that messes with your circadian rhythm. And the universe operates in a very precise rhythm. So night follows day, good follows evil, etc. So if you feel like you're on a downward slope at the moment, don't despair, because nothing stays the same. Change is the only constant in life, and the mere fact that you're doing this course, you've already started to make changes. So just keep going, because your life is going to get better. The next law is the law of cause and effect. And I think this law is probably the one that most people are familiar with. But they might not realize that it's a universal law. And Ralph Waldo Emerson called this law the law of cause and effect, the law of laws. And for every cause, there's an effect, and for every effect, there's a cause. Everything happens according to the law. There's no such thing as chance. Chance is just that the law hasn't been understood or recognized. The French philosopher Voltaire said that words like luck, chance, and coincidence were invented to express the known effects of unknown causes. The law of cause and effect is also known as karma, which again means that what you give out, you will get back. So if you give out, if you have feelings of anger, and I know people like this that seem angry all the time, and that they're driving down the road and they get lots of people that pull out on them and make gestures and so on, but they expect it to happen, and sure enough, it happens. And so just be aware of what you're feeling and what sort of feelings you're giving out there to the universe, because whatever you're giving out, know that you're going to get it back. Okay, so let's move on to the law of gender. So the last of the 7 Hermetic laws is the law of gender. And that means everything consists of masculine and feminine energy. And both men and women have masculine and feminine energies inside of them. The masculine energy is all about creating, and the feminine energy is about receiving. But we need both to manifest our desires. The universe itself contains both masculine and feminine energies, and nothing can be created without the fusion of these two energies coming together. And as I said at the beginning of the module, the principles of truth are 7. And he who knows this understandingly possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. And that's the message from the Kabbalion. You have the capabilities to create what you want. It's all within you. It just needs to be uncovered and brought to the surface. The mysteries of life, the metaphysical principles, which are understood and respected by the ancient traditions, have been dismissed by modern science. Spiritual principles and metaphysics, which is what I call the unseen rather than the seen, is regarded by science as mere superstition and not considered to be real. Or it was. I do think with quantum physics that's changing now. But I don't agree with that concept at all, because science really has no means to study spiritual phenomena. Science can only study what's perceived as material things. And I say perceived because at a basic level, as we already talked about, we and everything else is energy. And what can't be seen is outside the realm of science. That which we see with our physical eyes is considered real. However, we don't actually see with our eyes. We see through our eyes. And the world we see is nothing more than our perception. It's a mirror image of what's going on inside us. As within, so without. And as I said, if you carry a lot of anger or fear, you'll see the world as an angry and fearful place. If you don't have trust in yourself, you'll find it difficult to trust others. If you believe that life's a struggle, you will continue to struggle, and so on. And I've just outlined for you here in this course what the 7 main universal laws are. So please don't worry if you don't understand them yet. You're not meant to. It's just a very brief introduction to them, so that at least you're aware of them, and you can, if you wish, gain further knowledge of them. And if you'd like to do more work with me with regards to these laws, you can contact me and we can set something up. I've been studying these principles, these metaphysical principles, for well over 20 years, and I've still got so much to learn and understand about them. But what I do know is that when I'm aligned with these principles and consciously paying attention to them, my life works. And when I stray away from them, it doesn't work so well. Everything is harder and becomes more of a struggle. There is no doubt that these laws work. They are absolute and have been working since the beginning of time. And I hope this brief explanation of these laws has given you some food for thought as to how you can learn to put into practice these types of principles and begin to create the life you've always wanted. It is within your grasp, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You can, without a doubt, create miracles in your life. From a metaphysical perspective, miracles are an everyday occurrence. Miracles are part of life and are just a change in perception. They arise from conviction, but many of us don't have the conviction to believe in ourselves and the divine principles that govern our world. Terrorists have conviction. Their beliefs in what they do are so strong. In their minds, they're ridding the world of evil, and they absolutely believe that. Our beliefs in spiritual and universal principles must also be unwavering if we wish to create our ideal life and for miracles to occur. But make no mistake, this is entirely possible. But many of us are just too tolerant of mind wandering. We have an uncontrolled mind. We allow all sorts of disempowering and negative mind chatter to take over us. Feelings of overwhelm and confusion paralyze us. And I'm very guilty of that. I really have to take care not to get myself into overwhelm, because I noticed, I realised some years ago that I do have a form of ADD. So I have to be very strict with myself. But I do still fall into the trap as well. But the good news is that confusion only lives in the mind. Confusion is a thought, not a feeling. And if we bring our attention to our heart space during those times, the confusion will subside. And to do that, all you do is follow your energy, take it down from your temple, follow it down your neck and your throat into your body. And then put your focus on your heart space and the confusion will go away. So try it. By gaining an understanding and constant use of universal laws and spiritual principles, you will see what you consider to be miracles happening in your life. And I want to finish this module by reading a little story to you. Just get my notes. The Creator gathered all of creation and said, I want to hide something from the humans until they're ready for it. It is the realization that they create their own reality. The eagle said, give it to me and I will take it to the moon. The Creator said, no, one day they will go there and find it. The salmon said, I will bury it on the bottom of the ocean. The Creator said, no, they will go there too. The buffalo said, I will bury it on the Great Plains. The Creator said, they will cut into the skin of the earth and find it even there. Grandmother Mole, who lives in the breast of Mother Earth and who has no physical eyes but sees with her spiritual eyes, said, put it inside of them. And the Creator said, it is done. And that's a Hopi creation story from the Hopi Indian tribe. So let me just stop the screen share. Okay. So I hope that that information about universal laws was enlightening and useful for you. as I mentioned, it doesn't mean that, just going through them briefly like that, you're going to know all there is about them. That there's a vast amount of information about universal laws, and some are more apt and more, and you need to know more about them for manifestation than others. But unfortunately, I don't have time to go into them in depth in this course, but I am preparing another course which is all about manifestation. So if you get yourself on my mailing list, you'll get to hear all about that when it's out, which won't be too long. And as I said, I'm going to talk about this in the last module, but I will be offering everybody that takes this course a free one-to-one coaching call with me, and you can come to that call with your questions, and I will help you during that call as much as I possibly can. So make sure that you contact me and book an appointment to do that, because that will really help, put all of this information together, and I can answer questions for you that you may have, that you may have had throughout the course. So as you're going through the course, do make notes of questions, and we will cover them as much as possible on your free coaching call. So thank you so much once again for joining me on this module. I do hope that you've enjoyed it and that you found it useful. And I shall look forward to connecting with you in the very last module, which is all about creating and the desires to create the life that you really want to live. So I'll see you in the next module. Bye for now.